Good day, everyone. My name is Dan Gallenkamp, and this video is an excerpt of a recent webinar that reviewed the CoStar Real Estate Manager Accounting Calculations Exceptions Report. Since the release of the ASC 842 and IFRS 16 standards in 2016, accounting experts and companies have continued to evolve their interpretation of the implementation of the standard. Our experience suggests that auditors will continue to review and debate some of the details of how the standards are applied over the course of this year. Throughout the first part of 2019, we've been assessing customer data and reviewing feedback from the broad spectrum of customers and partners using our solution. In this process, we identified areas where the data and reporting have produced exceptions or warnings that warrant review and possible remediation. To facilitate this process, we released our new Accounting Exceptions Report, which allows each customer to see these exceptions and warnings in the context of their data. We believe that this new report should become part of your monthly accounting process, allowing you to gain additional comfort with your implementation of the ASC 842 and IFRS 16 standards. As you review the report, you may note some exceptions that appear on your site that do require remediation. We will go through the demonstration of the report and those associated data correction steps now.
Okay, so today we will begin our demonstration in the Reports module. Right now I'm in the Portfolio Home tab. So to navigate to the Reports module, I'm going to click on the Reports tab. And this will take me to my Reports homepage. So first, I'm going to select the Accounting Calculation Exceptions Report. And once I get here, this will take me to my Report Viewer pop-up window. So I'm going to select my portfolio and input the filter criteria related to my report. For the demonstration today, we are going to just be reviewing two specific errors. But you could also filter for warnings. And as the report runs, it's important to note and to keep in mind that this report can be used to identify data issues that could impact the balance of your journal entries. So again, today we'll be reviewing two specific examples and errors in the application that have been identified. Just to take a moment to kind of identify this in this report viewer window, we have the criteria in the upper left-hand corner, and in the blue column header, we have some information such as your portfolio, your system ID, your hierarchy information, and then you'll see towards the middle of the screen your journal entry status. So this refers to the processing status of your journal entries. So if nothing has been processed so far, then you will see a scheduled status. If you've approved or exported, you would see an in-process status for the period. So that's important to note going forward because that will impact your recommended action. Moving along, you also have your amortization profile, your calculation exception type, so whether it's an error or warning. You have your calculation exception description, and so this is going to give you a detailed information regarding your error. If the code has been fixed, so the error fixed status. So as Philip mentioned, we have a release going out tonight for a fix that's in place or soon to be in place. But a lot of these errors, you'll see that the code is fixed. That means that in the system going forward, the data will balance, but any of the data previous to the fix, we'll have to run this report and go through and correct. And that's what we'll go through in the examples today. We also have the calculation exception value, so that can be an indicator of materiality. We also have the calculation exception information, so that's period specific to that error, and then the calculation exception recommended action. So this is important to note. So if you see the recommended action, this is what we as CoStar are recommending that you do within the application. So as an example, I'm going to navigate to my last page the report because I know this is where my, my demonstration examples are today. But the recommended action here is a full reverse, edit, and recalculate. So in the report viewer, if I were to click on that recommended action, it's going to take me to a link to the support center. So where we have a full list of steps to remediate this action. And so essentially, we'll go through each one of these steps in our examples today, but this lists out the steps and gives specific instructions. You can also, in the top of this article that's listed in our support center, you can navigate to this link, Accounting Calculation Exceptions Report. And this will give you more detailed information about the Accounting Exceptions Report. It'll give you an overview, describe the errors and warnings, and the errors listed throughout the report. In the upper left-hand corner, if you click on the Click to Display Table Contents, this will take you to our full support center. So right now it's listed at the Accounting Calculation Exceptions, but it will, you could even deep dive into other areas of the support center for CoStar Real Estate Manager as it applies to accounting, lease accounting, or any other functionality in CoStar. So just wanted to point that out as we navigate back to our report. The first demonstration that we will go over will be pertaining to this lease right here, this 2977. So this lease, you'll see it is in process, and it is an error that says the lease expense calculation error. We have an issue with the lease expense or the level expense, excuse me, in October 2023. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to that lease within the application and review the error within the lease record. So I'm going to exit out of the report, and I'm going to go back to the application. And in the quick search, I'm going to input that lease ID, and I'm going to click search. And this is an equipment lease, so I'm going to navigate to the lease specifically. And from the lease abstract, I'm going to click on the accounting left nav menu. And now I can see the accounting summary. So first thing to note, in the accounting summary, we have an in-process status, which means that we have processed a journal entry in this amortization schedule. And then if I go to my period that was reflected in the report, so that was October 2023, so I'm going to scroll to the bottom of this amortization schedule. You will see, in fact, my level expense is not correct. It does not match my previous periods. So that's one thing by recalculating this amortization schedule. I can expect to balance that data, as well as if you notice the asset balance is negative beginning in July 2023. So that's also incorrect. And so once I go through the reversal process and recalculate and save this schedule, I should expect to see those balanced out. So let's go through that process. So the next step that we would need to take would be to reverse the approved entry. So the approval took place in January of 2019. So to do that, I'm going to need to navigate to my reports module. And in the reports module, now I'm going to click on my offline reverse journal entry report. So this report can be used to reverse the journal entries from either exported to approved or from approved to a scheduled JE status. So I'm going to click on that link, and I'm going to select my portfolio. And then I'm just going to make sure that my hierarchy information, my period, I know that this is for January 2019. and then I know that my amortization profile is for include all. I'm just going to filter out my criteria just to make sure that I pull back the records that I need. And so one thing to point out is that for demonstration purposes, I will use one lease at a time in this export process, or excuse me, in this reverse approve process. But please note that the journal entry reverse report allows you to do this in mass. So if I needed to unapprove or unexport several leases at a time, I would be able to do that using this report. However, the edit and recalculate would have to take place on each individual lease. So you could use the reversal report in mass, and then you would need to go into each lease to edit and recalculate each specific amortization schedule that was impacted. So once I run this report and I generate the Excel output, the first thing I want to do is I want to enable editing because I want to be able to edit this report output. So you'll see again in the upper left-hand corner, you have your filter criteria. And in this report specifically, you have the record that we were looking for. So this, I'm validating that it's the correct system lease ID. My journal entry profile, my display period is correct. And then most importantly, if you navigate to column P here, it's your action column. And so as I said previously, you could do the approval process or the unapproval process in mass. And so if I had several records here and say that I only wanted to unapprove a select few, you would want to make sure that that action step was selected as unapproved. And if there were any rows that you wanted to exclude from that reversal process, you would want to make sure that you skipped those by indicating that in the action column. So for this one specifically, I'm going to click unapprove. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. All right. And then now to load my reversal file, I'm going to navigate to my portfolio homepage. So I'm going to click on the portfolio menu tab. And from my financials dashboard, it's important to note that this offline upload template is a module right. So this is a security right that a user would need to have along with the financials dashboard access. You would click on this link, upload template. You would browse your saved file. You would select your file. And then you would submit it. And then you would upload your file. So once you upload the file, you could navigate back to your lease record. And so from my lease abstract, again, I'm going to click on the accounting left nav menu option. And the first thing that I'll notice is that my amortization schedule is now in a scheduled status. And if you look also, my January period is in a scheduled status as well. And so now that I've done the reversal process, now I can go through and edit and recalculate. So to do that, I'm going to click on this cog icon in the actions section of the accounting summary. And I'm going to click edit. And then I'm going to calculate values to recalculate. And then I'm going to save and close. And now, as I move through my amortization schedule, I can expect that this will be balanced out now. And I'll go back to my reports module, and I will run my accounting calculation exceptions report. Again, I'll select my filter criteria. And I'll run the report. So now that I have, we ran through the first process, so we have gone through the reversal, we've edited and recalculated, and now we'll see that our example will fall off of the report. So as you see, the 2977 is no longer listed on the report. And so I can validate that the error no longer exists, and then I could go through and I can re-approve and re-export my periods so that I will now have my balanced journal entries accurately reflected. So moving along, we'll go through our second example. So for this example, we're using, we're going to move down to our next record. We're going to use Lease 3314. And this is also an in-process journal entry, and it's webinar example 2.2. So that's what we'll use for our filter criteria. And this is related to the, so as Philip mentioned previously, so this says the retroactive remeasure on day one error and long-term and short-term liability. So again, as Philip mentioned, the day one remeasurement function will be disabled in tonight's release. The recommended action in CoStar is to do a full reverse, unexport, unapprove journal entries in CoStar, then edit and recalculate. So these corrections will fix your data issues within CoStar, but you'll also need to take into account any corrective adjustments needed to systems outside of CoStar, such as your ERP or GL systems that would have been impacted by any out-of-balance journal entries. So let's go ahead and navigate to this lease specifically. So again, it's 3314. And we're gonna walk through those steps. And as you'll see, so if I navigate from my abstract to my accounting dashboard, the difference here in this example, so we said it was on the report, it was webinar 2.2 example. So the difference in this schedule is that there was a remeasurement that took place. So it's important to note that in this situation, you must reverse the journal entries and then delete the remeasurement. So the journal entries associated with our remeasurement and then the remeasurement itself must be deleted before you can reverse the journal entries associated to the initial schedule. So we'll kind of walk through how that works. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to I just want to point out the approved status here in February, as well as if you click on the retro adjustment, it's also an approved status. So I'm going to go through and unapprove that. So we'll go through the same steps. And that's specifically for February. Again, it's webinar 2.2 example. So I'm going to go ahead and unapprove that. So pull my criteria up. Make sure my system lease is correct. Make sure that it's February. Perfect. So I'm going to save this. And I'm going to go back to my portfolio homepage. I'm going to upload that template. All right, I'm going to submit that. Go back to my lease. And so what we see now is our February period is now scheduled. So it's in a scheduled status. I could check that on my retro adjustment details as well. So see it's in a scheduled status. I did that by clicking on the link on under the liability adjustment. So now what I can do is I can delete my remeasurement. So I'm going to click on the cog icon. I'm going to delete the remeasurement. Are you sure you want to delete the schedule? Yes. And so now we see what we saw previously. We see our initial schedule is in process. The January 2019 and the beginning balance are both approved. So I'm going to navigate back to my offline reversal for my portfolio. And this time I'm going to make sure that I select my January period. In my reversal report, I'm going to enable editing, again, validating the correct periods. Unapproved, January, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to upload my January period. And then I'm going to navigate back to the lease. And so we can see my initial schedule is now scheduled. And so what I want to do is now I want to edit and recalculate. So I'm going to edit the schedule. I'm going to make sure that I scroll down to my expenses, and I'm going to include my charge stream from my remeasurement. I'm going to calculate values. I'm going to save and close. And then I'm going to go back and run my report one last time. And I'm going to do that for my same criteria. All right. And now when I run this report, so what I should expect to see is that webinar 2.2 example for that lease to jump off of my report. Now that my schedule is balanced, we can go through the same steps we mentioned previously, and that would be to and we see yes, it has jumped off of the report. So the next steps would be to actually go through and approve and export those now balanced journal entries, and you should be good to go. So that concludes the demonstration portion of this.
As you can see, the Lease Accounting Exceptions Report itself is a useful tool in understanding the exceptions and warnings we've identified for you on your site. If you have not already run this report, we recommend you do so at your earliest convenience, and that running this report becomes a part of your regular processes. To further assist you with understanding both the report content and the remediation steps demonstrated to you today, please visit our Application Support Center. The Support Center includes a new Frequently Asked Questions page related to the Accounting Exceptions Report, as well as documentation on the remediation steps. You can find this content quickly by searching for the keyword exceptions in the Support Center, which is accessed via the question mark in the bottom bar of the application. Thank you, and please reach out to the support team with any additional questions that were not answered in this video or in the Support Center.